Clearly, I'm a fan of mystery games, or at least my overarching definition of mystery games. If you didn't know that, you should check out the main video where I spend several minutes gushing about what makes these games and the mystery genre so amazing. Now that we're all caught up, I need to shout out the mysteries that didn't make the video but absolutely deserve a fair shake. These are some of my favorites, some that stretch the definition of mysteries, and some that, had I played them sooner, would have had a spot in the main video. I'll cover the mystery umbrella they fall under, their style of play, guided, self-directed, etc., their general playtime, the detective's identity, i.e. you or a character, and its ranking on an extremely subjective, completely personal sleuthiness scale. Consider this a mystery roundup, expanding on what's already been established. Sound like a plan? Your perceived silence and imagined nodding are all the affirmation I need. Let's go. Here's the thing. In my old age, I've become that adult who says, I don't need to go out to eat, I can make it at home. And that's where I'm at with Riven. Is there a beautiful, full rebuild of it out there in the year of someone's Lord 2024? A complete realization of the world that can exist outside of dynamic frames and stills while keeping true to its core of puzzling mystery? Yes, there is. But do I have the 1997 version sitting on my loyal PC, perfectly usable, perfectly accessible? Yes, I do. I don't need the new Riven, I have Riven at home. You already heard me touch on Cyan's first sequel. It was a beautiful game already, and it's fantastic that Cyan re-emerged from hibernation to crank this out, somehow making it more beautiful in ways that only several console generations can really bring to light. It's a classic for a reason. Truly interconnected, dependent on your understanding and keeping several moving parts straight in your head. If you're keener on modern design sensibilities, what modern hardware is capable of, and experiencing a timeless mystery puzzle decades later, then you can't beat what Riven brings to the table this time. We all try to zest up our work, make it a bit more enjoyable. Some people decorate their office space, bake for their coworkers, have an affair, but you can't beat being a snoop. This bed we made puts players in control of Sophie, a housekeeper in a 1950s hotel who just loves to rifle through hotel guests' belongings as she cleans their rooms. In true accidental detective fashion, Sophie starts to find various connections between seemingly disparate guests, gets wrapped up in a cat-and-mouse game of who's watching whom, and uncovers truth through her seemingly mundane perspective and eye for what others would miss. The mysteries are self-contained, like small puzzle boxes, requiring Sophie to turn over the room in order to uncover everything she needs to satiate her investigative itch. Although short for a game at its full price, this bed we made is a more narrative experience. It tells a story about a mystery and a detective, following Sophie as she endeavors to uncover the truth. But for an evening or two of intrigue, you could do far worse. This is an interactive throwback to traditional mystery stories. A book you could read in a few nights, a movie or an episode you could watch over an hour or two, and now, a game you can blast through in several hours, max. Power is a corruptor, as much as we would dream about doing better than those who have it currently. All it takes is a new perspective, a new justification, and you'll be falling ass over tea kettle as your benign decisions ripple out into life-changing tidal waves. Orwell is that power fantasy, putting players in control of the Orwell Surveillance Network's database in order to respond to, and ideally, prevent future terrorist attacks on the peaceful, maybe, country of Bonton. With access to web pages, social media profiles, and the ability to tap into private conversations, players will have the opportunity to discover, parse, and decide what truth to share with their superiors. With that built-in separation between agent, the player, and overseer, overseers only see what agents upload to the Orwell network from their investigations, giving players the ability, however narrow, to generate their own truth from disparate pieces of information. The investigative elements are generally streamlined. The Orwell network only gives you access to relevant areas of the net and highlights the important elements you need to continue building a case and proceeding. The Orwell network will even do the heavy lifting behind the scenes, connecting dots and filling out the database on its own. Orwell rides the margin between mystery and story, requiring that you absolutely understand and talk with your overseer about one part of the mystery before moving on to the next. Further, its focus is absolutely on the surveillance state setting, rather than the investigator and their efforts, but is still an entertaining story about such a setting, if not a bit close to home. And if you dig it, there's a sequel. Sometimes you have to give props for novelty. Unheard, Voices of Crime shares a series of crimes and questions through audio alone. You'll move an avatar around different floor plans, listening in on various scenes as an unseen observer. But the kicker is that the avatar isn't omniscient. Distance and architecture like walls and doors will muffle or block certain sounds, and you can only hear one side of a phone call at a time. You must choose, often among numerous characters in scene, who to follow and listen to at any point in time. Phone calls, conversations, and monologuing grumblings are all admissible to answer your questions, and you can maneuver around the scene completely unobstructed, even in the middle of someone's ramblings. It's a unique way of presenting a mystery in piecemeal, and concentrated in multiple cases for several streamlined experiences. The novelty of picking up on a piece of information and then searching out for confirmation among other conversations is a satisfying cycle. Absolutely a headphone-based experience if you can swing it, but by no means a requirement. You will uncover the truth in time. You just have to listen. Notably absent in the main video were instances of legal or procedural investigations and mysteries. This is absolutely subjective. I never really got hooked onto CSI, NCIS, or any of the many similar shows. Might be they focused more on the agents than the crimes. Don't shoot the messenger, but I prefer my Ted Dansons in The Good Place, and prefer my Mark Harmons in The West Wing. But then I stumbled across Scene Investigators, and it scratched an itch I didn't know I had. It launches you into reconstructed crime scenes, presenting you with a series of questions before leaving you to your devices to find the answers. From there, you'll dig around the crime scene, root through trash, make sense of notes and information scattered around the scene, before piecing it all together to answer the core questions. The developers used an interesting 70-30 approach, providing players in-game with 70% of the information and leaving them to figure out the other 30% through intuition and logic. Players have full liberty to investigate, explore, surmise, and deduce in order to discover what transpired and why. It's just you and the scene. And that's where it diverges from the procedural dramas. It's just you. There's no ensemble cast, no seasons-long plot developments, just you, a crime scene, and questions that need answers. Wrap this scene up and move on to the next one. You get several cycles of discovery, deduction, and comprehension, one for each scene. No chatty agents, no clever quips, no time limit. We're not all professionals, after all. But this is the next best thing for disillusioned folks like me. Procedural dramas aren't the problem. We just don't care about what they care about. I'm sure you noticed from the motif in the main video, but there is something satisfying about making your own case board for a mystery. Thumbtacks, connective thread, it all makes the questions you're asking feel more interconnected, real, alive. A hand with many fingers is as close to that feeling as you'll get in a game, giving you an infinite spool of red thread for a mystery you wish would just keep going. In a loose, based on true events setup, players control a reporter looking for some kind of break within a small archive facility. With a loose foundation laid out, you'll start digging around the archive for more information and insight using a streamlined archive sorting system, finding a name that lines up with activities in a certain region and time period, then pulling the necessary archived information from the basement storage facility to tack onto your board of information. There is no right or wrong way to go about the mystery. You're the one putting up the threads. Which one do you want to follow? Will you try to uncover everything about this one person's life before moving on to the next? Will you follow different tunnels as the whim takes you further down the rabbit hole? How do you want to solve this mystery using what precious little you know and have access to? A hand with many fingers makes for an intriguing couple hours and is unfortunately over far too quickly. But that's testament to its power. It makes the end of the trail a sad one, same as the sensation you get in other mysteries. You wish there was more. All the same, it is a fantastic foundation for its developers, worth every moment of the journey, and perhaps enough people buying it will be the push they need to build on this foundation in a fuller sense. A solid story leaves you wanting more. Look at something like A Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. Sure, we know that the Hunger Games will continue and flourish long after this revolutionary game in its early days, but it fills in gaps of knowledge. It shines a light on the main trilogy's antagonistic force. It gives people more. Mysteries are more pronounced in that void they leave behind, begging for us to find a new mystery to make us feel whole again for just a little while. That said, spotlight on 2 games that did exactly that. The Case of the Golden Idol's 2 prequel mysteries, The Spider of Lanka and The Lemurian Vampire, and Outer Wilds' Echoes of the Eye. The Spider of Lanka and the Lemurian Vampire highlight the fact that, in the case of the Golden Idol, the story isn't really the important part. We know that these 2 adventurers who keep getting brought up escape with the eponymous idol. Cliff diving shenanigans will ensue, and the rest of the story we know will kick off proper. The prequels lean hard into the root of why we love mysteries: understanding. These mysteries, though chronologically set before the main story, are absolute brain teasers and should only be played after the main game's conclusion. They are the answer, not for a call of insight and information, but of a plea for more. Echoes of the Eye is similar but different. It takes place at the same time as the rest of your interstellar adventures, another node on your spiderweb of things to look into and investigate as the sun continues to blow up every 20 minutes. At its core, it gives you more. A new biome to learn about and figure out how to manipulate, a new story to uncover, new tools to learn about, new scientific theories to hypothesize, test, and confirm, and a new end goal to pursue. In a departure from the main mystery, there are also some tense and frightening moments in the new adventure, but they can be diminished with a simple toggle in the menu. The feeling of discovery is palpable in Echoes of the Eye, and is the closest thing to date that we've gotten in our calls for more Outer Wilds. Of course, more can take on a variety of different forms. The Rise of the Golden Idol is out now, and it's more of what you love in a new coat of 1970s paint. The user interface has been rejiggered, providing a new thinking format to allow players to observe and piece together what happened on the same screen, making for a more streamlined experience without sacrificing the sense of discovery. And, a continuation of the saga of the adventures of the Golden Idol if you're into the story behind the mysteries. With more baseline information to infer out of the gate, more animated scenes, more cases than its predecessor, 20 compared to the original's 12 pre-DLC, it's all more in service to the saga of the Golden Idol. This next one comes from a place of respect, not enjoyment. For a small background, I have failed, or nearly failed, every foreign language class I have ever taken. Spanish, German, Latin. Something about breaking down and learning a new language never quite sticks with me, and always leaves me more frustrated than enriched. Chants of Senaar did not help this feeling, but removing myself from the equation, I can absolutely appreciate how it all plays out. The many levels of a mysterious tower each have their own language, which you work to understand piece by piece through exploration, simple communication, and linguistic deduction. Blessedly, you can take notes of the individual elements of the language in an in-game notebook. Like Obra Dinn, so many correct guesses will finalize a number of items in the notebook for easier reference down the line. I really wish I could enjoy Chants of Senaar. I know how English works, even if I have a hard time explaining it to people. I can't break down other languages enough to be able to build a foundation. Every effort has inevitably ended in failure. Even though Chants brought up similar feelings as I started to hit more and more walls, I have to believe that it's truly a matter of perspective. Not everyone is so hardwired against other languages as I am, so not everyone will so violently run into the walls of the tower as I did. Give it a whirl, be you a linguist or investigator. This will draw those two closer together. The thing that can turn people off of these mysteries and discovery-style games is the time you have to invest in it. It can take a while for that light bulb moment that paves the way forward, and many of these games require several light bulb moments in succession in order to complete them. Blessedly, for the busy people in this busy time, there's Leap Year. It's a compact experience asking players to learn how to navigate the world when things we take for granted are inherently dangerous. You see, on the surface, Leap Year is a platformer, but the facade falls away as you quickly learn that, unlike every other platformer, to jump is to court death. So you learn how to navigate the world bit by bit, finding new ways to work through the interconnected scenes, collecting the scattered 29 days of February. Leap Year is short, a few hours playtime at most, but you get the full experience of experimenting, discovering, and successfully using your newfound knowledge several times over the course of its adventures. It is designed intentionally for a concentrated experience built of small, surmountable, but still mysterious hills. Make a day of it. You only need one. A great barometer of any game is how long I accidentally play after just trying to get a few minutes of footage. A greater barometer is how many times I've revisited it for as long as I've had it. Antichamber is a puzzle mystery. It resembles any number of room-based puzzle games in recent generations, but the emphasis is on building knowledge through gentle learning and unexpected encouragement, rather than outsmarting rogue AIs or progressing a plot. But it also uses that same long tutorial format that Portal popularized way back when, of building on top of your foundational knowledge and giving players new ways to perceive and overcome the obstacles within. But unlike its progenitors, Antichamber is more freeform. Many passages lead down many halls, but you are encouraged to step away and revisit them at a later time. There are necessary incremental upgrades to your in-game abilities, dictating something of a path, but it remains up to you to find the path among the twisting halls. Understanding remains at the core of the experience. If you're sick of murders and whodunits and other ways of learning how to play, this might scratch a more cerebral itch. There's a lot more than I covered in the main video, and far more than what I covered here. Sorry, hold on, I've got the news going and...
There were no survivors. Again, for those of you just joining us, the Roottrees are dead.
This is the cherry on top. This was the mystery I was looking for after playing and revisiting all my heavy hitters. This was the payoff as I sought that feeling of discovery anew. On the surface, it's simple. The Roottrees are indeed dead, and you need to fill out their family tree so that the family lawyers can distribute their company's wealth equally between the living blood relatives. Of course, the Roottree record-keeping department was trash, and now it's up to you to do the job that should have been done over the course of a century. Using the most advanced home technology of 1998, you'll conduct research, pull articles, and partner with the library system in order to fill in the tree. Names, occupations, and photographs. The experience is self-propelled, but focused enough that you don't need to be an actual genealogist to connect the dots. Books are streamlined, web searches are truncated, and you don't need to thumb through entire magazines from decades ago for pertinent information. Combined with simple accessibility options out of the gate that don't overtly guide players into the solution, but simply lets them know that there's a new stepping stone somewhere in what they're looking at, this is the manifestation of mystery and discovery. The slow burn of understanding, the clicks of realization as pieces fall into place, it all gives you the sensation of being the one to solve the mystery. Now, granted, I'm talking about the original itch.io release, but there is a Steam version releasing in January 2025. Quality of life improvements across the board, custom art assets replacing the previous AI-generated images, new voice acting, new music, even a new sequel mystery to sink your teeth into. Whether you go to itch.io right now or wait patiently for the Steam release, I will say this. If you play no other game on this list, then play this one. The Roottrees Are Dead are what this genre of play is all about. And that's it. Really, this time. This genre, whatever you want to call it, is such a unique one, whether in the mysteries presented, how they're being presented, how the game wants you to solve them, how much information you have access to out of the gate, how you access that information. It can be so many things without ever compromising its experience. Go find a case that resonates with you. There are plenty out there that need solving.